Good afternoon. I'm Jen Bonet with the Creative Coast, and today's topic is CARES Act. It's not too late to get your share. So this whole idea was brought to me about a week ago by somebody that I helped that is an independent contractor or self-employed, and they successfully got both PPP and the SBA EIDL program loans following directions that I had sent them, whereas previously their bankers had told them not to bother. And so this was meant, one of the programs actually ends on Saturday, if it's not renewed this week by the House and Senate coming to some sort of conclusion on the HEALS Act. It will end this week, and it still has $130 billion in it. So we should try and go for it if we can. And that's what was kind of the inspiration behind this, as well as a little bit higher level view in my Savannah Morning News article for those people that maybe missed this presentation. So a little bit about me. I think pretty much everyone on the call already knows me, but just in case somebody's watching. Been in Savannah about 2 years, and I'm really focused on helping the startup community grow in Savannah, Georgia. Next, I would love it if you would unmute yourself and introduce yourself, your company, entity type, like whether you're a corporation, LLC, single member LLC, that's important, and then whether or not you've applied. So Jeremy, why don't you start since I can see your face?
Sure. Hi everybody, my name is Jeremy Fletcher. Our company is Ledgerama. Ledgerama is an LLC. And paycheck, I'm not I think it was just the injury disaster loan that I applied for. It was SBA, and I'm not sure exactly which one it was. I think it was the economic injury disaster loan, the one for 10,000.
Yep. That's the advanced program. That money's gone. Yeah. Is your LLC a single member LLC or a multi-member LLC?
Multi.
Okay. That's all I need to know. Just to help. Yeah.
Yep. And I did apply, but it got denied. For
PPP or the EIDL? The EIDL.
I think I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay. Milena?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Hi, my name is Melina Gauss, and I own Lammergeier Glass Recycling, and I am a single member LLC, and I applied for the EIDL loan, and I as well got, I was initially denied, and then when they opened up the independent contractor, that sort of thing, I got a very small amount.
Yeah, that's pretty normal. Great, awesome. I see James Marla.
Hello, good afternoon. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Quick, name, company, entity type, and whether or not you've applied for any of the CARES Act loans for small businesses.
James Marlowe. I'm the founder of Clean Energy Advisors, and I'm an independent consultant, and I have not applied, but I am curious, and a lot of people have talked about it and interested, so I saw you had a great session today, so I wanted to join.
Yeah, thanks. I'm actually did this specifically for people like you that are really small businesses that maybe felt like they didn't qualify, but now that there's money left and we're almost to the end, you better apply, right? Mark, why don't you say hi?
Hi, Mark Brimmer, founder and CEO of Excess Capacity. That company is going to be a C corporation. I did file for the EIDL under Mark Brimmer, Inc., which is an S Corp that I founded in 1993 and was rejected.
Okay. Pamela.
Hi. I don't know what that was. Okay, I'm sorry. My name is Pam Cummings, and I am with Arbonne. I am an independent consultant, and I did not know if I would qualify or not, and I just wanted to find out some more information.
Okay. Well, we're going to walk through that one. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
And last but not least, we got Rob Lingle on. Hi, Rob.
Muted. Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Good. How are you?
Doing well.
So name, company, entity type, corporate structure, and have you applied for either of those, PPP or the EIDL program?
Yeah, sure. Rob Wingle, Oakworks. We are a LLC S Corp. We have done PPP, not EIDL.
Okay. All right, cool. That gives me a feeling for who's on. Like I said, I really came up with the idea of doing this program just last week when somebody reached out to me, and they actually had a small LLC, and they had been told by their banker, no way in hell were they going to get any money. And they followed the directions that I had sent to a couple of entrepreneurs that got forwarded to them, and then they qualified for money and were just floored. So these are people's own bankers telling them that they may not be qualified for certain things, and then yet you are. So I wanted to do this class in particular, and there's an article in Savannah Morning News tomorrow with a quick overview of the programs, what's still available, what money's still available, who qualifies, and a high level of how to apply, or my recommendations how to apply based on the 5 or 6 people that I've helped. Yes, Rob.
Well, and then just because I'm a minute late, are we kind of, where is everybody else in the process among the?
So we've got mostly small LLCs or independent contractors. Several have applied and got denied early on. And so we're just going to walk through what programs are still open, how to apply.
Okay. I guess my question is, can we reapply for more? Just because we basically lowballed it the first time around.
Well, so you applied for the PPP, but you didn't apply for the EIDL. So I'd apply for an EIDL.
Okay.
I think the PPP will be extended through the HEALS Act, but it's not been extended yet. And if they extend it, it's likely that they'll lengthen the number of months runway you're allowed to apply for. And so I think they'll reopen applying for it. But, you know, initially the runway was like 8 weeks, right? You can apply for 8 weeks worth of payroll and rent, and that was it, right? And now we're 5 months, 6 months into this thing, and it's still going. So while they've adjusted the PPP, they did not lengthen the number of months of runway that you can get. So I think that's going to come in the HEALS Act, but I'm not positive that the HEALS Act will pass this week. I just heard a news report that they're getting closer, but the Senate's supposed to go in session, end of session on Friday for vacation, summer vacation. So if they don't pass it before Friday, it won't pass. But I believe everyone should apply for both. So the agenda, we're going to talk about the overview. Then we're going to go through each program. And probably debt relief is probably not a situation for any of you here, but there was really 4 programs. So it was payroll protection, economic injury disaster loan, say that 10 times fast, then the economic injury disaster loan advance program, which was the up to $10,000 in advance that was for 100% forgivable. The debt relief program, which is really meant for companies that already have an SBA loan. And basically the SBA is going to pay that part of your loan for 6 months so that you don't have to pay for 6 months. And then we'll go into questions. Come on. CARES Act, right? So we all know CARES Act, $2 trillion, something like $380 billion of it set aside for small businesses, signed into law March 27th. There was really, I say 3. There's 4 programs. Most people only talk about the first 3. The debt relief program was something I found later for a business who came to me and said, I already have an SBA loan, so I don't think I could qualify for these new programs. And that's true. If you have an SBA loan, like you already have a 7A, you bought a business with using SBA funding, You cannot apply for paycheck protection or the economic injury disaster loan, but you can get relief for up to 6 months of your current payments for your SBA loan. So all four are managed by the SBA, although you apply differently. And 3 out of the 4 still have money available. In fact, there's $330 billion still available. But as of right now, the payroll protection program ends on August 8th. Right, so problem with my double screen here. So the first big thing is who can apply, right? And so many people have come to me and said, I'm a sole proprietor, or I'm an independent contractor, or I'm self-employed, or I'm a nonprofit, right? So I can't apply, right? You know, small businesses is basically anybody that's transacting business with, you know, less than 500 employees and less than 7.5 million in revenue per year for the last 3 years is the way the SBA defines it. But the way these things were written, sole proprietors, independent contractors, self-employed contract people, and 501c3s can apply. Now, there is a key here. Most of this is going to be based on last year's earnings. Right? So if you're an independent contractor or a self-employed person, this is going to be based on what you can ask for is what did you pay yourself last year, essentially, or a portion of what you paid yourself last year, right? So it's keyed off last year's earnings. So if you just launched in January, you're going to have a hard time showing that you deserve these funds, right? I'd still apply. I'd still try. I mean, it'd be worth it. If you could show 3 months, you know, January, February, March of income, some sort of income, that would be beneficial, right? Maybe you can do that. The payroll protection program is the one that I've really focused on for this week because it's due by Saturday. Right now, unless they extend it, applications are due by Saturday, right? And this is one where there's $130 billion still available in the money that was set aside. And it's really intended for payroll, right? It was intended to make sure that you continue to spend payroll money. It was really intended to be this like 8-week window, they thought, when we were closing everything down mid-March through, you know, mid-May, that we would cover, you should be able to cover payroll from that. And then, you know, we're going to have this V-style recovery. So as soon as that comes back, you'll be able to start paying people again on your own, right? Well, that didn't really work out, but it was still geared around this idea of this 8-week period. It is a loan. So it is a 5-year loan with 1% interest, which is very, very close to money. Payments start in 6 months. So payments would start 6 months after you receive the funds, although I believe that's been delayed already. I believe they're saying the first payment would be due at the earliest January 2021. And it's forgivable, meaning it's free, as long as 60% goes towards payroll, right? And that payroll can be you. Does not have to be just employees. It can be you as the part of the payroll. So for an independent contractor, it's potentially free income for you based on what you made last year, based on, you know, what your either owner disbursements or if you actually paid yourself. If you were like an S Corp, you would probably pay yourself versus owner disbursements like an LLC. What you ever paid, you know, what you paid yourself, it's free. And then if you do have an office space or whatnot, the other 40% can be rent, mortgage, utilities, things like that. It is not supposed to be asset based. So like it's not for inventory and things like that. It's more utilities, right? And so this, I recommend if you have not applied for this, you apply, even as an independent contractor. And this ends August 8th. The catch here is if you are an independent contractor, solopreneur, single member LLC, the best path forward is not your bank. Okay, the best path forward from my perspective is Fundera or Cabbage. every independent contractor that I've sent through the cabbage route has gotten some money, you know, kind of equivalent to what they were paying themselves on a monthly basis, you know, for 2 months of a monthly basis prior to all this going down. The cabbage application is pretty easy. The only, you know, you're going to need your Social Security, not all your banking, all your business setup information as far as what state you're in, what type of entity you are, EIN or Social Security number, all that sort of stuff, typical, right? They do want last year's taxes for your business related taxes. And the only thing they asked for on the top of that that I had to like download and have ready was 3 months worth of bank statements for my business banking account. 3 months, that's it. So pretty easy. Took less than probably about a half hour once I knew what I needed to download and have ready. And got pretty fast notice. And again, I've sent probably 5 people, 2 of which were told by their bank not to apply through cabbage, and they got money. And as long as they spend it on paying themselves, 60% of it is spent on paying themselves, and the other 40% is spent on things like rent and mortgage interest, it will be forgiven and you never have to pay it back. Now, you will need to track and show proof what you spent the money on. So once you get the money, documenting and saving, you know, statements as to how you spent it is very important in order for you to get forgiveness. Most, well, all of you, and like me, being a very small business means that there's going to be less of a burden to show proof, but we're not entirely certain what that is yet. There is a form for forgiveness already out there. There's 2 different paths to follow. One is called the easy form, kind of like the easy tax filings, right? So you'll have to follow those procedures probably. Now, on top of that, there is a rumor out of DC saying that anything below $60,000, they're never going to even look at again, that it's just too small for them to worry about, and that they're going to focus on the higher end loans. You know, some of the bigger companies could get up to as much as $2 million for this program. So, so I think, you know, but so my thing here is apply. My recommendation is apply through one of these online banks because it's going to be faster than your local bank, than your normal bank. And then track how you spend it and follow the procedures on the back end, which we can do once we get to the other side of this. We can have another session on how to do that. But, you know, go for it. And like I said, the main information, I had to fill out business information. I had to fill out business owner information, which is interesting. As a nonprofit, I don't really have a business owner. So I had to put in board information. And then the last year's revenues, last year's gross expenses, kind of proof of that by uploading part of the tax return, and then 3 months bank statements. That was pretty much it as far as what they asked for up front. Anyone have any questions on the PPP?
Well, I think this is, I do have a question. It's kind of about all of them, I guess. Just that, you know, we, like you had mentioned, I mean, we launched in January. So, you know, last year, I mean, we were working last year and I filed taxes for last year, but, you know, we really didn't have any revenue. We did, I mean, you know, and we didn't produce anything other than code and a little bit of marketing material. So it's like there's, you know, when I look at the numbers, it's like there's just nothing there. I guess the question is, you know,
you don't have a payroll, so there's no payroll to protect.
Right.
So you probably don't qualify for this one. Now you might qualify for the EIDL. Right.
Right.
Depending on how you frame it. So we're going to go into that one next.
Okay, cool.
So again, my view of the world is if you paid yourself last year through your business somehow as an independent contractor, as a solo proprietor, as a small LLC, S Corp, whatnot, and you have not applied for the PPP, you need to do so today. Enough harping on that. EIDL, right? You have a little bit longer time here, so you can plan a little bit better, right? And it's applications are due 9/30. There's still $200 billion available, right? And this is really intended to replace lost revenue. So this is really meant to cover expenses aside from payroll that would be picked up typically by revenue, right? When you fill out the form, it's going to ask you, was your business impacted by COVID-19, right? And I mean, that's it, right? Yes, everyone's business has been impacted some way by COVID-19, right? It is a loan. You will have to pay it back. So it's, 30 years, 3.75% interest. Payments don't start for 12 months. 2.75% for nonprofits, right? And you apply for this program through the SBA. Again, really simple program. I'm going to actually show you some of that next. Part of this use of funds, is really meant to cover your expenses. So it could go towards office supplies. It could go towards kind of restocking inventory. What beside payroll do you need to cover in order for your business to hopefully continue to survive through this period of time, right? And it seems to me you don't get to ask for how much money you get. They just calculate it and they go, here's what you're getting, right? So you just fill out this form and they tell you what you're qualified for. There was a period of time that it was open, and then it was only open to agricultural businesses, and then I think around June 15th, it reopened to small businesses as well. So if you applied in that window for this and were denied, you might have applied in the window when it was agricultural only. And so you might want to try and apply again. The process is pretty easy. This is actually a screenshot from the top of the page, and it's first you fill out a set of disclosures that says that you were economically impacted by COVID-19. You check a bunch of things that says that your business is not in gambling or pornography or all this other stuff. Then you move on to business information, and it's your business name, your entity type, your EIN, SSN, address. This is the only place they ask for revenue and expenses. There's no upload of data. Now, I uploaded my revenue and expenses for 2019. It does say you can do a rolling year, right? So Jeremy, that might be beneficial to you. I don't know, to do a rolling year. So, I don't know, say March 2019 to March 2020, whatever. That makes sense. Whatever gave you the most expenses possible, probably, right? To see what you could get. Under business owner information, that's individual owner. Again, it was a little weird because I applied as a nonprofit and we don't have an owner. They did run a credit check on me. So if you are refinancing your house or buying a new house or something, and you're in the middle of that, and you're concerned about somebody pulling your credit history, impacting that, wait till after your refinance is done. Again, this is ends 9/30, so you still have time. I was in the middle of a refinance when I applied for the Creative Coast, and they pulled my credit, and my bank got pissed at me, and I was like, guys, it's a nonprofit. I'm not even responsible for it, right? There's no owner. I'm not really the owner. They shouldn't have done it, but just so you know, they will. They didn't ask for any bank statements. They didn't ask for my tax returns, which is good because the Creative Coast hasn't finished theirs for 2019, right? It's nonprofit and has to go through a formal audit process. And so, yeah, again, my advice is apply. There is some language in there. You know, you have to be able to, if somebody would call you up and say, were you really impacted by COVID-19? You're going to have to be able to say yes and feel comfortable with that, right? And so we applied for the Creative Coast and we got $121,000. Okay. And I can't really say that my business was significantly impacted. I lost one member, 2 members went on hold. And so not, you know, again, we're talking, you know, $225 a month of lost revenue there. We did have to put on hold one of our major events, She Hustles, and had already gone out of pocket on the event space and some costs related to that. So I lost, you know, close to $1,000 in expenses there. Plus, it's usually a revenue generating event, not a lot, but you know, $2,000 to $3,000 every event. Every time we throw She Hustles is income to the Creative Coast after all of our expenses. But I did it because, and got board approval. Again, nonprofit, I don't own it. Got board approval to do it because we don't know what the next 18 months are going to look like. Right? And so if I can't reopen the space and do events, how much longer do people continue to pay rent? Right? Or membership fees, right? If I can't do, if She Hustles is going to be virtual in the fall and I can't do ticket sales or get sponsorships because it's Zoom, you know, that's revenue lost. If I can't do Grit conference, which usually is a fairly large money maker, like $30,000 a year, you know, what do I do? And then, you know, our largest funders are CETA and the city. What if the impact of COVID on the city tax structure impacts the number of grants that they give next year, 2020, right? So COVID, whether or not it truly impacted my bottom line, I don't really know. Not significantly at the moment, but I don't know the path forward right now. And I'm very concerned about having a runway to survive to the other side of COVID. So the board voted to take the money, right? And I did take it to a board vote, right? It wasn't just Jen. But so I think, you know, nobody's called me and said, how was your business impacted by COVID? I have literally one day got $121,000 in the bank after signing a form, right? So the process goes, you fill out your application. A couple of weeks later, you get an email from them that says, log into our site, and it says, you've been pre-approved for this amount. Do you want it or not? Right? And you say, yes, I want it. Right. And then about a week later, they send you legal documents that are not even loan documents. They're just like a loan agreement that you will sign loan documents sometime in the future at these terms. You sign that and money shows up in your bank account. So pretty easy. But I still kind of have this concern in the back of my head going like, what if they call and ask me about, you know, how I was affected by COVID? So I think, you know, anybody that applies and says yes to these disclosures on the first page, which are basically saying that you're impacted, should be prepared at some point in the future to be able to justify what that impact was. Let's see. Any questions on this one?
I do have just a quick question. So essentially there was two, this is the one that it was the EIDL that I had applied for. And
part of it was, there was this next piece of it where you could, on the very last page, you could say, yes, I wanted advance up front. and that money was forgivable, and it was up to $10,000. It was allocated at $1,000 per employee. We did get $1,000 for the Creative Coast, but that ran out of money. So there's no reapplying for that component.
Okay. But so there was essentially two questions, right? There was that were asking about numbers. How much revenue did you have, and what was your total? I think the question, the way it was phrased, was what was your the total cost of goods produced, I think was the question, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really sure how to answer that. So, I mean, revenue is kind of obvious, right? We didn't make any money, but we did spend money. I mean, we bought laptops, you know, I mean, we paid, you know, we paid some legal fees. We had, you know, and of course, you know, we have to survive. So, you know, I mean, I don't know, I mean, so should I calculate an hourly rate for us and put that in the cost of goods produced? Should I put the cost of the laptops and all that kind of stuff in there? Or, you know, how would you proceed with coming up with that number? Because technically we didn't produce any goods, so I don't want to lie and say we spent all this money producing goods when, you know, essentially we're, you know, yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Jen?
Yeah, it's a little tricky. I probably would break down my expenses into things that could possibly be justified as tying into cost of goods sold and things that can't, right? So legal fees, definitely not, right? But laptops, yeah, I mean, how do you produce code for an app if you don't have a laptop?
Right, okay.
But if your software is the goods that you're going to be selling, what assets did you purchase that go into that?
Right.
So I guess, you know, it could be software licensing, it could be
Yeah.
your laptop.
Yeah, all the hosting costs and.
Yeah, so I would break it down to what goes into, what costs can you tie directly to the production of the software? And then anything else is more of a miscellaneous expense for legal and stuff like that.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Because they say you can come, you know, they say if you don't, you know, if you would like to reapply, go ahead. So I think I'm going to reapply and kind of tweak some of those numbers to reflect what our actual costs were. Because at first I thought, you know, this should probably be a no-brainer. They'll probably just send me some money, because that's how the unemployment stuff has worked. I mean, it's just crazy. They don't ask you, you know, they don't ask you anything really. It's just like, here, have some money. So I was kind of under the assumption that that might be the case with this, but it wasn't. You know, we did get denied. So I'll probably go back and reapply and tweak the numbers a little bit to reflect our actual costs.
Yeah, and I hadn't even considered unemployment, right? So, well, I doubt they're doing any comparisons. It's two different agencies managing the process, right? So, I mean, it could be that if you are an independent contractor and sought unemployment, that you shouldn't seek this, because you're getting paid out of that other pot of the CARES money. And if they did a double check, they might feel like you double dipped. You know, we didn't seek unemployment. I continued to pay everybody at the Creative Coast through it.
Okay.
In fact, I'm expanding, so. We've expanded through it because of our needs have changed. You know, we went all online, so now we need more help with online content than we had before. So yeah, I would think reapply. I would look at that rolling year, right? So for me, I had 2019 was a good year for us, so I could just put in 2019 information. And if they ever ask me, I have the tax backup documents and stuff like that, or will, you know, they're almost done. Technically, my taxes are done, my audit's not. So I'll have all that by the time they come ask me questions. So it made sense. But for some people, it might make sense to do the rolling year that ended in March, or that ended in April, or ended in June, because you had more expenses in that rolling year, right? Less income, more expenses, or whatnot, that you can show proof of COVID impact. Any other questions on the EIDL? It's really, like I said, this is the process right across the top. It's literally like 5 pages on a website.
Yeah. Jen, when you say you expanded W-2 employees, 1099, both?
So I've had all 1099s up until right now, and we're about to bring on another full-time person right now.
Okay. I mean, my impression was that PPP and EIDL, if they ask about it, payroll, they're not talking about anything except W-2. Is that?
PPP is payroll, right?
So PPP is W-2, but EIDL, you can do anything?
EIDL can be contractors.
Cool. Okay.
Jen, I had a question.
The other thing you can encourage your contractors, your independent contractors, you can also encourage them to apply for their own PPP.
Right.
Okay. Sorry, my dog's barking. I have construction going on in my house today. So.
Jen, can you hear me?
I can. Hi, Dean.
Hey, I applied like April 3rd. I think I sent my application in. I did get the money for the employee part, but they turned me down rather quickly, saying that I hadn't suffered any economic, but you know, March was okay, but then April we fell off the cliff. Then I'm just wondering, do you have to reapply, or can you go back and say, I think you're wrong on this, and ask them to relook
I don't
at it?
know of any mechanism to go back and kind of give proof that otherwise. I would just reapply. Okay.
Because they just, you know, I used through March information. Of course, we hadn't really been impacted through March, but then April, it went to nothing. So.
Yeah, so I don't feel that, so my EIDL loan was not based on anything related to impact.
Yeah.
Right? I got $121,000. I did not have $121,000 of pain.
Yeah.
Creative Coast. Okay. So they looked at my history somehow. Again, SBA could possibly get my IRS documents for the last few years, right? And said, based on previous years' expenses, we're going to loan you $121,000, right? So, but when I filed, I had no proof that I was hurting that bad, right?
Yep. Okay.
So I don't think the decision was based on how badly you were hurt. I believe it's more of a historic, oh, this is how much it costs to run their business on a year-by-year basis. And obviously business is down, so they're gonna need some help to last through this, right? Mm-hmm. And remember, the PPP is meant for payroll. This is meant for other stuff that got impacted due to loss of revenue. So other expenses that you can't make because your revenue is down because of COVID-19. But they weren't looking at, I mean, I filed when this first opened up, right? So early April or May. I think I had to wait till May because I had to get board approval. Yeah. Yeah, so I think I had to wait till like the first week of May when the board met. It might have been April, I don't know. I have to get board approval for everything. So I had to have a board meeting in order to get permission to even apply. So I know it wasn't due to how badly I was impacted by COVID-19 because like I said, we really haven't been. My concern is whether or not our funding for 2021 is significantly impacted due to the city money and the state money and stuff that we get.
Right. I just couldn't see how they could make a determination in the middle of April that I hadn't been impacted. You know, that was kind of early, I thought, to make that determination.
No, so I would try again. I would reapply.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Dean, I did. So I pulled up the letter that they sent me, and I just kind of put it in chat what they had said. You know, that if you disagree with our decision, you can request reconsideration. And I put some stuff in chat there.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Cool. So that's good information in the chat too. Since I got approved, I don't have that information. Sorry. Any other questions on EIDL? All right, so we've got the economic injury disaster loan advance, which was part of the EIDL. it was literally free money. You will never have to pay it back. It was based on number of employees, and independent contractors could get a cap at $1,000, or solo proprietors got $1,000. And then the last program was the debt relief program, and this was for people that already had SBA-backed loans. So the loans with the bank typically, or SBAC locally, but the SBA guaranteed your loan, and that's the 7A 504 microloans, are the programs. And basically what they did for that program is the SBA will pay 6 months of all those fees, such that you don't have to, as long as, even for new loans. So as long as it was done before COVID, right? And there's some interesting things around, like if your loan were to finish during this time, you might actually get cash back because they're going to pay 6 months, and that would overpay. But that's just specific to people that had 7A existing loans with the with a bank that was SBA backed. And that's really all I had for you. Just really wanted to encourage people, if they haven't applied for PPP, to apply now, this week. Rob, for people like you, keep an eye on the HEALS Act, because I do think if that passes, there's going to be an extension such that you can get more PPP money to cover a longer period of time, right? Encourage your contractors to seek PPP money themselves this week if they can show proof of making a living as an independent contractor and can show 1099s from your company and or others. They can apply for a PPP, and that might help keep them afloat or allow them to work for you longer with less pay, because they're getting that. And then I think everyone, you have more time for this, but think about the EIDL. Think about the EIDL for things not related to payroll, like independent contractor services, right? Like office related stuff, even the young woman that was on with Arbonne, maybe you can pay for some supplies, stocking up some of those supplies so that you have them. That might qualify as a restocking. Keeping inventory could be potential use of funds for Arbonne, or for you, for the EIDL. So it's important to think about, how do you think about that, right? Think about, okay, if I do get a phone call or do have to show proof that I was impacted, what's my story, right? I don't think it even has to be a dollar amount. I think it has to be more like, oh yeah, here we were negatively impacted because of this, like Creative Coast, really not significantly impacted to the point of $121,000 for this year, right? Impacted more like, if I can't pull off grit, maybe 30,000 for the year, right? $30,000 less revenue, but they gave me 121,000, right? So, but I'm looking at that like as what happens if, because the city pulled in less tax this year, they're not able to fund as many programs as they did last year, and we lose our city funding. That's a 25% of my revenue every year is that city funding, right? And that could significantly impact programs if that happens. So we went for the loan with the idea of, okay, we've got 3 years of city money in the bank. Should we not get any city funding this year? And that gives us a runway to figure out new funding for those programs that the city currently funds.
Jen, this is James. I have a quick comment. I think you did absolutely the right thing. I mean, the city may be closed down again in the fall, so you've done the right thing, and I would say your board, following you, did the right thing. I do have a question. Essentially, in last year, I worked doing consulting work as a sole proprietor. I did form an LLC in January, but in quickly looking at Cabbage, it quickly goes sole proprietorship or LLC. Should I just do it as an LLC? or
I think I'd probably do it as a sole proprietorship because
sole
you want to be paid on
proprietorship is
last year's
actually-
income.
You know, the data that I have is based on the sole proprietorship work last year. My tax return is a personal return.
Yeah, I think I'd go as a sole proprietor and then transfer the money into the LLC after I received it.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but you've been through it. I haven't, so I thought I would ask. Thank you. Thanks for your information today. Very helpful.
Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Anybody else have questions? If not, we can wrap a little early.
Well, I mean, I kind of have a question. So I looked back. We actually did EIDL, and I got far enough that they gave us the emergency immediate funds, right? And then now they just want me to accept. Still there?
Yeah.
And now they just want me to accept the loan amount. And I feel like this is just generic business decision. So I've got a loan at a fairly low rate, and you're looking at 120-ish. I'm just averse to bills. That's going to mean an extra bill. But I'm pretty sure I can do something that's going to return more than 4% interest on that money. So just accept it, and then I've got backup money and money to invest as we need to. What's your kind of thought process on that?
Yeah, so that's that's a business decision. Right. Obviously, I try, like my personal businesses, I've always tried to keep my costs or my debts really low. So this would typically, I'd be very averse to this, right? This would be a definite no.
Yeah.
But with the amount of uncertainty that we have right now, and knowing that I don't have to make a single payment for a year, to have that nest egg in that bank account for that corporation,
Mm-hmm.
I would say yes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, worst case scenario, you pay it back almost immediately. Like things go better than we expect, then you pay it back, right?
Right.
I've heard of people, quote unquote, returning the money. So I don't know what that deal is. I haven't looked into that, but I've heard of people returning the money. The other thing to understand is that this is for the smaller amounts, like less than $150,000, I believe, it's not supposed to have a personal guarantee against it. So if the loan is to your business and your business goes bankrupt, the SBA pays the bank the money, not you.
Interesting. And we're right.
It's not a personal loan. Don't think of this as a personal loan. It is a business loan, and as long as it's under $150,000, it is not supposed to be tied to your person. It's tied to the business. So
what if the business closes for any other reason? I mean, there's no good reason to think it's going to last 30 years for whatever exits.
If you go bankrupt, if the business closes or you go bankrupt, you don't owe the money personally.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's another thing to think about, right? It is a business loan. It's SBA backed, right? So that means that the SBA is guaranteeing the loan to whatever bank is providing the money. That's why small businesses love SBA loans, right? Because it's really cheap loans and they're backed by the federal government.
And that business can close for any reason, and they're out of it. They're out of their obligations.
I mean, but to me, it's free money, right? It's like, do I really like taking a 30-year loan for a nonprofit organization that I know for sure I'm not going to be running in 30 years, and that passes on to the next executive director to have that decision to make. But I'm confident that I feel better with the money in the bank. So does the board.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And worst case scenario, we pay it with, I think it's like $300 a month for the next 29 years once we start paying. So it's not like it's a huge burden.
Yeah. At 120 is
121. It's like 300.
Oh, see, our calculator says 730 for 150,000, but.
So we're a different percentage.
Right.
Nonprofits are cheaper.
Yep.
Yeah. Nonprofits have a lower rate.
Yep. Okay.
So, yeah, I think the other thing is I think you cannot accept the full amount, but accept a lesser amount.
Mm-hmm. Looks like I've got a sliding scale. I can go down from there if I want.
Yeah. So once you get the offer, you can tell them what you're willing to accept. You submit it, then they send you paperwork back that you sign. That's not even a loan agreement yet. And then you get money in the bank. So you can say, I only want to do, I don't know, 70K, because that pays, you and your partner, at least make sure you have some money to cover your guys' expenses for the next year, just in case things continue to suck.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? Just as a backup. But remember, it is tied to the business. It's not necessarily tied to you personally. That's why I was really shocked that they ran my personal credit score, because it very specifically says that the less than $150,000 does not require a personal guarantee.
That's,
and
it seems insane. That seems like ripe for abuse, I guess, but okay.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is I am not a legal advisor or a certified financial advisor. So talk to your financial guy. I mean, I would, Rob Cordasco is on my board and was integral in every step of us making
And
the
he's our
decision
guy,
that we
so
made, and he's awesome. So I'm sure he'd be willing to do, even if he's not your current
he is
CFO, I'm sure he'd be welcome a conversation about it. He was like, it's essentially almost free money. I mean, the interest rate is so low, it's almost free money, right? And it gives us security, because we really, like, one of my big things that I've been saying to people lately is, like, I'm just planning on July 2021. Maybe things are back to normal, right? People get worried about that, but I figure if Google's decided that they're definitely not going back to the office until July 2021, they obviously have a lot of data that must show them that. It's not like they just went, I think July, not January, we'll do July at Google. Figure they're a data company and they must have figured this out some way. So I'm kind of looking at, we've got at this point almost a full another year of this uncertainty. And what do I need to do to at least survive the next year? If not, try and figure out a path towards thriving.